coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but Elena Thornton hadn't noticed. She sat at the counter of the Grizzly Peak Diner, somewhere along Highway 89 in Montana, watching the mountains blur into purple shadows as afternoon stretched toward evening. Her reflection in the window showed a woman in a cream silk blouse and tailored pants, expensive clothes that felt like armor she couldn't remove. The waitress had stopped asking if she needed anything. The truckers in the corner booth had stopped glancing over. Elena had perfected the art of being invisible in plain sight, even when everything about her screamed money and power. Her phone buzzed for the 40th time. The merger, the stockholders, the Tokyo office needing decisions only she could make. Elena silenced it without looking, feeling the familiar weight in her chest. The exhaustion that had nothing to do with sleep and everything to do with a life that had become a machine she couldn't turn off. Outside, an older model Chevy van pulled into the gravel lot, dusty from miles of road. Elena watched without real interest as a man got out, stretched, then opened the side door. A little girl emerged, maybe 6 years old, in a dinosaur t-shirt and light-up sneakers that flashed with each step. Something about the way the man touched the girl's shoulder, gentle, protective, tired, made Elena's chest tighten. She looked away, back to her cold coffee, trying to remember the last time someone had touched her like that. Like she mattered for reasons that had nothing to do with what she could provide. The diner door opened with a cheerful bell. The little girl's voice carried across the small space, bright with excitement. "Daddy, can I get the chocolate chip pancakes? The ones with the smiley face?" "We'll see what they have, Maisie. Don't get your hopes too high." Elena didn't turn, but she felt them settle into a booth behind her. Felt the particular energy of a parent and child navigating the world together, that intimate choreography she'd observed from a distance her entire life. The waitress, Dolores, according to her name tag, appeared with menus and the warm familiarity of someone who'd worked this counter for decades. "Well, look at you, sweetheart. Love those shoes. Do they light up when you jump?" Maisie demonstrated enthusiastically, and even Eleanor felt her mouth twitch towards something like a smile. "We've got chocolate chip pancakes," Dolores continued. "Can't promise a smiley face, but I'll see what I can do." Elena listened to them order. Pancakes for Maisie, coffee and toast for the dad. The simplicity of it felt like watching a movie about a life she'd never lived. She'd built an empire worth $8 billion, employed 17,000 people, revolutionized sustainable energy storage, but she'd never sat in a roadside diner with someone who cared whether she got chocolate chips in her pancakes. "Daddy, that lady looks sad." Eleanor stiffened. The child's voice was soft but clear, that particular tone kids used when they thought they were whispering but absolutely weren't. "Maisie, that's not polite. Leave the lady alone." But she does. She's looking out the window like how I looked when we drove away from home. Like she's missing something. Eleanor felt the child's observation like a hand reaching through her carefully constructed walls. She kept her eyes on the window, on the mountains that didn't care about quarterly reports or board meetings. Footsteps approached, small ones, hesitant but determined. "Excuse me, miss?" Elena turned slowly, preparing her polite dismissal, and found herself looking into the most earnest brown eyes she'd ever seen. The little girl stood beside her counter stool, one hand gripping the edge, light-up sneakers still blinking rhythmically. "Yes?" Elena's voice came out softer than she'd intended. "Are you sad because you're alone?" "Because we're going on a trip and you could come with us if you want. Daddy says trips are better with friends, and you look like you need friends." The man, the dad, appeared instantly, face flushed with embarrassment. "Maisie, we talked about this. You can't just invite random people." He looked at Elena, offering an apologetic smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "I'm so sorry, she's very friendly." Eleanor should have smiled politely, made a dismissive comment, returned to her window and her cold coffee and her 40 unread messages. Instead, she heard herself say, "Where are you going?" Maisie's face lit up. "Yellowstone. To see the geysers and the buffalo and maybe bears, but only from far away because they're dangerous. It's me and Daddy's first big trip, just us two." "First trip in 5 years," the dad added quietly, and something in his voice carried weight that Elena recognized. Loss, the kind that reshapes your entire world. "We've been planning it for months," Maisie continued, her enthusiasm building. Daddy saved up and got special time off work and everything. We're gonna camp and cook hot dogs on a fire and see Old Faithful and—" She stopped suddenly, studying Elena with unsettling intensity. "You look like my mommy." The dad, he'd have to introduce himself properly if this bizarre conversation continued, went very still. "Maisie." "Not exactly like her," Maisie clarified, unbothered by her father's tension. "But your eyes are like hers. Kind eyes. Mommy used to say you could tell if someone was good by looking at their eyes." She tilted her head. "Are you good?" Elena felt something crack in her chest. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I try to be. That's what Daddy says too. He says trying to be good is the important part." Maisie reached out and touched Elena's hand where it rested on the counter. Her fingers were small and warm and sticky from something. "So, do you want to come on our trip? You could ride in our van. It's old, but Daddy takes really good care of it. And we have extra supplies because Daddy always packs too much." "Maisie, this lady has her own life, her own plans. We can't just—" "Do you?" Maisie asked Elena directly. "Have plans?" Elena looked at this child who'd somehow seen through her in 30 seconds. Then at the father who stood there in worn jeans and a flannel shirt, tired eyes and calloused hands, holding himself with the careful dignity of someone who'd learned to navigate the world alone. She had plans. A hotel suite in Bozeman, calls scheduled for tomorrow morning. A private jet waiting to take her back to San Francisco, where 1,000 responsibilities demanded her attention. She had everything except a reason to want any of it. "No," Elena heard herself say, "I don't have plans." 20 minutes later, Elena found herself standing beside a 2008 Chevy van with oxidized paint and a bumper sticker that read, "Parks Not Profits." Inside, she could see camping gear organized with almost military precision, sleeping bags, a cooler, a plastic bin of supplies, everything secured and efficient. The dad, Jack Morrison, he'd introduced himself as, offering a handshake that was firm but not performative, was loading her small carry-on bag into the back. He moved like someone used to making things work with what he had, no wasted motion. "I still think this is crazy," he said, not unkindly. "I don't even know your last name." "Reeves," Eleanor lied smoothly. Her mother's maiden name, the one that didn't appear in Forbes or on corporate letterhead. Elena Reeves. "And you're really okay with just coming along with complete strangers to sleep in a tent?" Elena almost laughed. When was the last time she'd slept in a tent? Her assistant had once arranged a glamping experience in Sonoma that had included a 4-poster bed and a private chef. This would be different. "I'm sure," she said. Jack studied her for a moment, and Elena had the uncomfortable sensation of being seen. Really seen, not just looked at. "Okay," he said finally, "but we need ground rules. This is Maisie's trip. Her first big adventure since—" He paused, choosing words carefully. "Since she lost her mum, I won't have anything interfering with that." "Understood. And we split costs, gas, food, campground fees. I'm not a charity case." "I never thought you were." "Good." Jack's expression softened slightly. "Look, I know this is weird, but Maisie, she hasn't smiled this much in a long time. If having you along makes her happy, I'm willing to give it a shot." Maisie appeared then, carrying a stuffed triceratops and a stack of activity books. "Are we ready? Is Elena really coming? Did you tell her about the singing rule?" "Singing rule?" Elena asked. "Everyone has to sing along to at least 3 songs on the road," Maisie explained seriously. "Even if you're bad at singing, Daddy's terrible, but he tries really hard. I'm sure I can manage 3 songs." They climbed into the van, Maisie in her booster seat, Elena in the passenger seat that had a faded pine tree air freshener hanging from the vent. Jack started the engine, which turned over with a rough cough before settling into a steady rumble. As they pulled back onto the highway, heading north toward the park, Elena felt her phone buzz insistently in her purse. She ignored it, watching the landscape roll past and feeling something she hadn't felt in years. Possibility. The strange, terrifying possibility that she might be making a choice that had nothing to do with profits or strategy or the careful architecture of success. She was getting into a van with strangers, heading into wilderness, with no agenda and no plan. It felt like jumping off a cliff. It felt like finally breathing. Jack Morrison had learned to navigate single fatherhood through trial and error. mostly error. In the 5 years since Sarah had passed, an aneurysm, sudden and cruel, no warning, he'd figured out bedtime routines and parent-teacher conferences and how to braid hair in a way that was functional if not pretty. What he hadn't figured out was how to stop being lonely. Not lonely for romance, necessarily. He dated a little, awkward dinners arranged by well-meaning friends who seemed to think grief had an expiration date, but lonely for connection, for adult conversation that didn't revolve around his work as a park ranger or Maisie's school schedule. Lonely for someone who saw him as more than just Maisie's dad or the widower who needed gentle handling. Now driving north with a mysterious woman in his passenger seat and his daughter singing along to a Taylor Swift song in the back, Jack felt that loneliness ease slightly, replaced by something more complicated. Helena Reeves, if that was even her real name, and Jack had his doubts, didn't fit. She'd changed into jeans and a simple sweater from her bag, but everything about her still screamed money. The way she held herself, the quality of her leather boots, the watch on her wrist that Jack recognized from a magazine as costing more than his annual salary. But Maisie had latched onto her with the certainty of a child who'd decided someone was safe, and Jack had learned to trust his daughter's instincts. Maisie had shut down after Sarah died, gone quiet and careful in ways that broke Jack's heart. Seeing her smile at a stranger, seeing her reach out, that was worth the risk of whatever weirdness this arrangement might bring. "This is your daughter's first trip since her mother passed?" Elena asked quietly during a lull in the music. Jack glanced in the rearview mirror. Maisie was absorbed in her coloring book, headphones now on. "Yeah, we used to do a big camping trip every summer when Sarah was alive. She loved Yellowstone. After she died, I couldn't..." He paused, gripping the steering wheel. "So I felt wrong to go without her, like we'd be moving on or forgetting." "What changed?" Maisie asked. "Said she wanted to see the places Mommy loved, to feel close to her. How do you say no to that?" Eleanor was quiet for a moment. "You don't." They drove in comfortable silence, the van eating up miles of highway. Jack found himself relaxing slightly, the tension he carried in his shoulders easing. There was something calming about Eleanor's presence. She didn't fill the silence with chatter or ask probing questions. She just existed beside him, watching the landscape, occasionally pointing out something interesting to Maisie. At a gas station stop, while Maisie used the bathroom, Elena insisted on paying for the fill-up despite their earlier agreement about splitting costs. "Consider it a contribution for letting me tag along," she said, handing the attendant her credit card before Jack could argue. He noticed she positioned herself carefully, blocking the attendant's view of the card, paying and pocketing the receipt quickly. Running from something, Jack thought, or someone. Back on the road, Maisie convinced Elena to play I Spy, which devolved into giggles when Elena's clues were hilariously vague. Something brown. Maisie, literally everything out here is brown. More giggles. Jack found himself smiling, really smiling, for the first time in months. They reached the campground just as the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Jack had reserved a spot near the tree line, far enough from the main camping area to feel private, but close enough to facilities for Maisie's sake. Setting up camp revealed the true disparity between them. Jack and Maisie moved through the routine with practiced efficiency. Tent up in 10 minutes, sleeping bags rolled out, cooler positioned in the bear box, camp stove assembled. Eleanor stood to the side, clearly wanting to help but having no idea how. "You ever been camping before?" Jack asked, not unkindly. "Not like this." "Okay, here." He handed her a mallet. "You can help Maisie with the stakes. Just tap them in at an angle, firm enough to hold but not so hard you bend them." Elena took the mallet like it might explode, then knelt beside Maisie with endearing determination. Together they worked on securing the rainfly, Maisie giving instructions with the authority of a seasoned outdoors woman. Jack started a fire, and they cooked hot dogs on skewers, letting them char slightly the way Maisie liked. Elena burned hers black, laughed about it, ate it anyway. As darkness fell and the fire crackled between them, Maisie leaned against Elena's shoulder with the casual affection of childhood. Elena stiffened for just a moment, then slowly, carefully put her arm around the little girl. Jack saw the expression on Elena's face in the firelight, wonder mixed with pain, like she'd forgotten this kind of simple closeness existed. "Tell us about you," Jack said. "What do you do, Elena Reeves?" Elena's hesitation was brief but noticeable. I work in technology. Energy solutions. Mostly. It's complicated and boring. Do you like it? Another pause. I used to. Now I'm not sure I remember why I started. Maisie yawned, the day catching up with her. Daddy, can Elena sleep in our tent? I don't want her to be alone. Jack opened his mouth to protest. They'd planned for 2 people. There was barely room, but Elena spoke first. That's sweet, Maisie, but I have my own sleeping bag. I'll be fine out here. But what if bears come? Then I'll tell them very firmly to go away, Eleanor said seriously. I'm quite good at being firm when necessary. Maisie giggled, satisfied. Jack got her ready for bed, teeth brushed with bottled water. One story read by flashlight. When he emerged from the tent, Eleanor was still by the fire, staring into the flames with that distant expression she'd worn in the diner. She's already asleep, Jack said, settling back into his camp chair. Kid could sleep through an earthquake. She's wonderful. She is. Jack poked at the fire. Look, I know this whole situation is weird, but I want to say thank you. I haven't seen Maisie this happy in a long time. I haven't felt this. Elena searched for words. Present, real, in longer than I want to admit. What are you running from? The question hung in the air. Elena met his eyes across the fire. Everything, she said quietly. A life that stopped feeling like mine. Jack understood that more than she knew. Well, you're welcome here, for as long as this makes sense. They sat together in companionable silence, 2 people from completely different worlds, sharing space beneath more stars than either of them had seen in years. Neither of them noticed the photographer with a telephoto lens in the campground across the way, capturing images of Elena Thornton, reclusive billionaire, tech mogul, one of the most powerful women in America, sitting by a campfire in borrowed clothes, looking more at peace than she had in any official photo. By morning, those photos would be everywhere. But for now, they sat by the fire, strangers becoming something else, while overhead the Milky Way painted light across the darkness. The next day dawned clear and cold, breath visible in the morning air. Jack woke to find Eleanor already up, attempting to start the camp stove with the determination of someone accustomed to making things work through sheer will. Unbutton on the left, then twist the knob right, Oni said, emerging from the tent. Eleanor adjusted her approach, and the stove whooshed to life. She looked absurdly pleased with herself. They made oatmeal, instant and from packets, nothing fancy, and instant coffee that was terrible but hot. Maisie ate hers with enough brown sugar to make Jack wince, but he let it go. Camping rules were different than home rules. The plan was to spend the day in Yellowstone proper, hitting the major sites. They loaded into the van and joined the stream of cars heading into the park, tourists from everywhere converging on this wild place. At Old Faithful, they waited with a crowd of hundreds for the geyser to erupt. Maisie sat on Jack's shoulders, bouncing with excitement. Elena stood beside them, phone silenced in her pocket despite its constant buzzing. When the geyser finally blew, that magnificent column of steam and water shooting toward the sky, Maisie shrieked with joy and Eleanor laughed, actually laughed, with genuine delight. Jack caught her eye and smiled, and for a moment they were just 2 people sharing a child's wonder. But then Jack noticed others noticing Elena. Furtive glances, whispered conversations, phones being pulled out. A woman approached, hesitant. "Excuse me, are you Elena Thornton?" Elena's entire demeanor shifted. The warmth vanished, replaced by cool professionalism. "You're mistaken." "No, I'm sure of it. You're the CEO of ThorCorp. I have your book. I went to your keynote in Seattle last year." The woman was insistent, excited. "Can I get a picture?" "I'm sorry, you have me confused with someone else." But it was too late. The name had been spoken, heads turned. More people pulled out phones. Not just for the geyser anymore, but for the woman standing next to the ordinary dad and his daughter. Elena Thornton, not Elena Reeves. Jack felt the ground shift beneath him. Elena Thornton. He'd heard the name, of course. One of those tech billionaires always in the news, though he didn't follow that world closely. Photos didn't do her justice, apparently. Or maybe he'd just seen what he wanted to see. A lonely woman in a diner, not a mogul with enough wealth to buy the entire park. "Jack," Eleanor started, but her voice was drowned out by the crowd pressing closer. "Ms. Thornton, what are you doing here?" Is this a publicity stunt? Are you scouting locations for a new facility? A man with a professional camera pushed forward. Who are these people? Are you vacationing with them? Is this your family? Maisie, still on Jack's shoulders, started crying. Too many people, too loud, too close. Jack lifted her down, held her against his chest, and backed away from the chaos. Elena's face was frozen, trapped between the person she'd been for 2 days and the person everyone expected her to be. "Ayaki, please." But he was already walking away, Maisie sobbing into his shoulder, heading back toward the parking lot through the crowd that parted for them because they were nobody, just a dad and his upset daughter. Behind them, Elena was surrounded, drowning in the attention she'd been trying to escape. Jack didn't look back. Elena stood in the center of the crowd, answering questions on autopilot, signing autographs she didn't want to give, posing for photos she'd never see. Her assistant had been calling for 2 days straight. The board was losing their minds. A major acquisition was stalling because she wasn't available for calls. None of it mattered. All she could see was Maisie's tear-stained face and Jack's expression, not anger. Worse, disappointment, betrayal, the look of someone who'd been played. She'd lied. By omission, by using her mother's maiden name, by letting them believe she was someone she wasn't, an ordinary person who could fit into their ordinary trip. But she wasn't ordinary. She was Elena Thornton, and that name came with weight that crushed whatever fragile connection they'd been building. Her assistant arrived by helicopter within 3 hours, touching down in a nearby field with the kind of dramatic efficiency that defined Elena's usual life. Charles emerged with a tablet, a phone, a schedule, and the vaguely disapproving expression he wore when she deviated from plan. "The jet is waiting in Bozeman," he said without preamble. "We've cleared your schedule for the next week to deal with the fallout from your vacation. The press is having a field day. Photos of you camping with a park ranger and his daughter are everywhere. The narrative ranges from midlife crisis to secret family to publicity stunt." Elena let the words wash over her. "I need you to find out where they are. Jack Morrison and his daughter Maisie, they're camping somewhere in the area. Ms. Thornton, find them, Charles." He sighed but pulled out his phone, already working. This was what she paid him for, making impossible things happen. Eleanor looked back at the geyser, still erupting on its predictable schedule, giving tourists their guaranteed show. Everything in her life was like that, scheduled, predictable, controlled. Everything except the last 2 days. "I found them," Charles said. "They checked out of their campground this morning. Looks like they're headed home. Morrison lives in Jackson, works for the Park Service. Daughter's in 1st grade, wife deceased 5 years ago." He paused. "You want me to arrange a meeting?" "No." Elena took the tablet from him, looking at Jack's information. A modest house, a modest salary. A life built on purpose and presence and not profit. "I'll handle this myself. The board meeting can wait. Mr. Thornton, with all due respect, you've been out of contact for 2 days. There are fires everywhere. You cannot simply, watch me." Elena took her phone from him, scrolled through the 47 urgent messages, and then, with a gesture that felt both terrifying and liberating, turned it off completely. "Tell the board I'm taking a personal week. Tell the press nothing, and Charles." She met his eyes. "Thank you for everything you do, but sometimes the fires can burn without me." She walked away from the helicopter, from her assistant's protests, back toward the parking lot where she'd left Jack and Maisie. They were gone, of course, probably already miles down the highway, putting distance between themselves and the circus she'd brought into their lives. But Elena had their address, and she'd learned something in the last 2 days. Some things were worth fighting for. Some connections, once made, shouldn't be abandoned just because they were difficult. She'd built an empire by seeing what others missed, by taking risks when the safe choice was easier. This was the biggest risk of her life. Jack drove in silence, Maisie asleep in her booster seat, exhausted from crying. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter than necessary. He'd been an idiot, a complete fool, letting a stranger into their lives, into Maisie's heart, based on what? A feeling, his daughter's intuition, the loneliness that made him vulnerable to someone who'd seen them as what? A novelty, an escape from her real life. Elena Thornton, one of the richest people in the country, and she'd played them, pretended to be someone she wasn't, let Maisie get attached. But even as the anger churned, another voice whispered underneath it. She hadn't seemed like she was playing. The way she'd struggled with the camp stove, laughed at her burned hot dog, softened when Maisie leaned against her. That had been real. Jack had spent his adult life reading people, a necessary skill for a ranger dealing with tourists and emergencies and the 100 small dramas that played out in the wilderness. He'd thought he'd seen something genuine in Elena. Maybe he'd only seen what he wanted to see. His phone rang, unknown number. He ignored it. It rang again and again. On the fourth call, Jack answered with a sharp, "What?" "Mr. Morrison." A man's voice, professional. "My name is Charles Webb. I'm calling on behalf of Eleanor Thornton. She'd very much like to speak with you. To explain..." "Tell Ms. Thornton," she explained plenty. "She's a billionaire who slummed it with regular folks for a few days. Story over." "Mr. Morrison, I assure you, that's not..." Jack hung up. They drove home in silence. The trip ruined. All of Sarah's favorite places tainted now by this mess. When they pulled into their driveway in Jackson, their small house with its weathered porch and overgrown flower beds looked simultaneously welcoming and lonely. Maisie woke as Jack turned off the engine. Her eyes were red, face blotchy. "Is Elena coming back?" she asked quietly. "No, sweetheart." "But why? Did we do something wrong?" "No, we didn't do anything wrong." Jack turned in his seat to face his daughter. "Eleanor, she wasn't who she said she was. She lied to us about who she was. But she was nice. She played I Spy with me. She told me about the stars." Maisie's voice cracked. "I liked her." "I know, baby. I liked her too." "Then why can't she come back?" How did you explain to a 6-year-old the complicated reality of class and privilege and the ways people from different worlds couldn't really mix? How did you tell her that the lady who'd felt like family for 2 days lived in a reality so removed from theirs that it might as well be a different planet? Because sometimes people come into our lives for a little while, and then they go back to their own lives. That doesn't mean it wasn't real while it happened. Maisie absorbed this with the solemn acceptance of a child who'd already learned too young that people leave. They unloaded the van in silence, putting away gear they'd barely used. The trip that was supposed to honor Sarah's memory, now just another loss to process. That night, after Maisie finally fell asleep clutching her triceratops, Jack sat on his porch with a beer he didn't really want. The stars were clear here, brighter than at the campground even, no light pollution to dull them. He thought about Elena looking up at these same stars with wonder, asking Maisie the names of constellations with genuine curiosity. Thought about her struggling with the camp stove, determined to figure it out herself. Thought about the way she'd let Maisie lean against her, that moment of connection that had seemed to surprise her. Maybe she had been playing them. Or maybe, and this was worse somehow, maybe it had been real for her too and she'd still chosen to lie. Jack went inside, locked the door, tried to sleep and failed. 2 days. That's all it had been. 2 days shouldn't matter this much. But they did. Elena arrived in Jackson 3 days later, driving a rental car that cost more than Jack's van, wearing jeans that were designer but practical, looking both determined and terrified. She'd spent those 3 days tying up loose ends, delegating responsibilities she'd held too tightly for too long, realizing that her empire wouldn't crumble if she stepped back. Realizing that she'd built something that ran beautifully without her constant presence, which was either success or tragedy depending on how you looked at it. Charles had tried to talk her out of coming. The board had threatened her with breach of fiduciary duty. Her lawyers had reminded her of the optics. She'd come anyway. Jack's house was small but well-maintained, the kind of place that showed care even on a limited budget. A swing hung from the porch beam. Maisie's bike leaned against the railing. Through the window, Eleanor could see warm light and shadows moving. She sat in the car for 10 minutes, building courage. Finally, she knocked. Jack opened the door, expression shifting from surprise to guarded neutrality. "Elena." "Jack, I know you don't want to see me. I know I have no right to be here, but I need to explain. You lied about who you were. I used my mother's maiden name because I wanted one conversation where someone didn't see the money first. I wanted to be seen as a person." Elena held his gaze. "And then your daughter invited me on your trip, and I should have told you then. I know that. I was a coward. You let Maisie get attached. Do you understand what that means?" She lost her mother. She doesn't attach easily. And you... I know. Elena's voice cracked. I know I hurt her. I hurt both of you. And I'm sorry. More sorry than I have words for. They stood in the doorway, the space between them filled with everything unspoken. Why are you really here? Jack asked quietly. Because those 2 days were the most real I've felt in 10 years. Because Maisie looked at me and saw someone worth inviting, not a name or a bank account. Because when I sat by that fire with you, I remembered what it felt like to be human. Elena took a shaky breath. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm just asking you to understand that whatever else was a lie, the connection was real. From inside the house, a small voice called out, Daddy, who's at the door? Maisie appeared behind her father, saw Eleanor, and froze. For a moment, no one moved. Then Maisie ran forward, wrapping her arms around Elena's waist with the wholehearted commitment of childhood. You came back, she sobbed. You came back. Elena dropped to her knees, holding the little girl, tears streaming down her own face. I'm so sorry, Maisie. I'm so sorry I wasn't honest. I'm sorry I upset you. Are you really a billionaire? Maisie pulled back, studying Elena's face. Yes. Does that mean you have a lot of money? Yes. More than $100. Despite everything, Elena laughed. Yes, more than $100. Maisie considered this seriously. Okay. But do you still like hot dogs and camping and I Spy? Very much. Then I don't care about the money part. Maisie looked up at her father. Daddy, can Elena stay for dinner, please? Jack looked at his daughter, at this woman kneeling on his porch with tears on her face, at the impossible situation that felt somehow inevitable. Just dinner, he said finally. Elena stood, wiped her eyes. Thank you. Dinner was spaghetti, jarred sauce and frozen garlic bread. Nothing fancy. They ate at the kitchen table with its mismatched chairs, Maisie chattering about school and friends and everything Elena had missed in 3 days. Jack was quieter, watching, assessing. When Maisie finished eating and ran to her room to get her latest art project, he turned to Elena. What happens now? I don't know, Elena said honestly. I want to be in your lives, in Maisie's life, but I understand if that's not possible. I understand the gap between our worlds. It's not about money. I know. It's about Maisie's heart. She's already lost so much. I can't let her lose anyone else. I'm not going anywhere. You say that now. But what happens when your real life calls? When there's a crisis only you can solve, a meeting only you can attend? What happens when this stops being novel and starts being work? Elena met his eyes. I've spent 10 years building a company that runs without me. I'm very good at delegation. What I'm not good at is living. Your daughter taught me that in 2 days. She's 6. She's wise beyond her years. Elena leaned forward. Jack, I know we barely know each other. I know this whole situation is absurd, but I felt more like myself by that campfire than I have in my corner office. And I think you felt something too. Something real. Jack was quiet for a long moment. You terrify me, he said finally. Good. You terrify me too. I'm a park ranger who lives paycheck to paycheck. You're a billionaire who could buy this entire town. How does that work? Very carefully. With honesty this time. With clear communication and boundaries and probably some awkward moments. Elena reached across the table, stopping just short of touching his hand. But I'd like to try, if you're willing. Maisie returned then, carrying a painting of their campsite, crude but heartfelt, showing 3 stick figures by a fire under a starry sky. I made this for you, she told Elena. So you remember our trip. Eleanor took the painting like it was priceless art. I could never forget. Good, because I want to go camping again, with you and Daddy. But this time, without all those people with cameras. Jack and Eleanor laughed, the tension breaking slightly. I think that can be arranged, Eleanor said. They spent the evening together, games and stories, the ordinary rhythm of family life that Elena had never experienced. When Maisie finally went to bed, Jack walked Eleanor to her car. This isn't going to be easy, he said. No. People are going to have opinions. The press will be interested. It will complicate your life. My life was already complicated, just in all the wrong ways. Jack studied her in the porch light. This woman who'd stumbled into his life and somehow rearranged everything, one day at a time. One day at a time, Elena agreed. He kissed her then, gentle and careful. A beginning, not an ending. When she drove away, Elena looked in the rearview mirror at the small house with its warm lights, at Jack standing on the porch watching her leave, but not in a way that felt permanent. She'd come back, and again, as many times as it took to build something real between their different worlds. Because Maisie had been right in that diner. Eleanor had needed friends. She'd needed family. She'd needed to remember what it felt like to be human. And maybe, just maybe, they'd all found something none of them had known they were looking for. The rest would figure itself out. One day, one meal, one moment at a time. Under the stars that shone equally on mansions and modest homes, on boardrooms and campfires, on all the spaces where love grows if you're brave enough to let it,